Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Getting With the Program, talking about Episode 2 of RWBY, The Shining Beacon. I am your ever-friendly Pokeprof, joined here once again by Kitty Kross and Ashen Sky. Anyway, so one thing I realized that we didn't do that I'm going to try to make sure we do for every episode is name off the title of the episode itself, which I've already done, and give a super quick overview of the episode. Shining Beacon is basically giving us a quick rundown of some of the additional characters that we'll meet within the series, as well as giving us an introduction to Beacon Academy in and of itself. Overall, it's just a bit of a growing episode, I think, so far. What do you guys think?
Sort of. It's another, well, again, it is the second episode, so it's a very introductory type of episode where we're getting to understand the place that they're in, what it's going to entail being there, and some of the other characters that are going to be inhabiting said place along with our main character.
Yeah.
She seems just as lost as us.
Well, yeah, RWBY so far from what we've seen in just terms of like the character department, she's a very, as I like to use the term, adorkable. She's like very, very awkward, but very, very cute.
You absolutely love the bit where she turns chibi.
The chibi part got me. I don't know why. It's just like, it's just that sudden shift in style, because while this does have some anime-ish overtones with how the characters are designed and just the overall feel of things so far, because, you know, these whole big old weapons that the characters have, that's very anime-ish. But the style is Americanized enough that you don't suddenly expect a character to walk by and RWBY to go from being a full-sized, you know, humanoid-style girl to tiny little chibi big fat head.
And it wasn't just that, the fact that she went from 3D to 2D.
That too. And that's
Heck, her arms were detached at one point.
Yeah, and that's not the only thing either. It's like at the very end of the episode, we also see the whole, like, freaking Looney Tunes fight cloud. It's like, it's weird. Also, breathing in your mic again, Sky.
It's definitely an interesting transition of styles that they try to incorporate in the series, because this is not the first time we see something like this. Nor will it be the last.
All right, good to know. We also got introduced to several new characters. We got introduced to Weiss, who I like to call Bitch. And we also got introduced to Blake, who by far is my favorite character from what I've seen of the show so far. She's cool-headed, relaxed, and loves to read books.
Let's not forget.
As far as Weiss, I think you should refer to her as the frigid bitch. Well, because Weiss literally means Snow White in German.
Yeah, and you were saying something, Sky?
Well, let's not forget our favorite cardboard cutout, Jean.
John, yeah.
Yeah, John Arc. Who, if my memory serves me correctly, because I know you mentioned this once before, he's actually based off Joan of Arc, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember that being like a thing where it's like there are some characters who are like gender flipped, just to add some like variety into the show.
Well, it's not. It's the characters that they're based on. I'm not going to specify the other characters at this point, but Jean later associates with other characters who he becomes teamed up with, who are all based on characters in history and mythology who basically took on the persona of the opposite gender at some point.
Right. Okay, that's definitely interesting. I also kind of find it interesting that out of all the characters so far, because so far we still haven't seen that many weapons throughout the different characters, but I do know from, you know, my friends and what exposure I've had, this series, everyone's weapon is a gun, except for Jean's. I think his is the only one who's just like a regular old sword.
Actually, no, because there are a couple of other characters you'll encounter along the way that their weapons do not turn into guns or have any functionality as guns.
Now, wait. Hold that thought. What
Hmm.
if his sword shoots gun?
It
Really?
shoots guns. Pew 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 pew. I also
But
love.
yes, while the majority of the weapons that people wield in this show do have the capability to also be guns, there are a number of characters who have weapons that do not have the capability to be used as guns.
Interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
I will also say I found it. I love the little hint to a future character that we got where Jean is all like complaining about being separated from Ruby and is like, where is he gonna
Like,
meet
where
another quirky girl to talk
to
to?
talk to, yeah.
And then he immediately turns to the right, and there's the only other character in the entire scene that's fully detailed right in the background. So it's like,
Mhm.
hey, hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah,
Wink,
that is
wink.
one thing about the fact that they do the background characters all black, that it makes it pretty obvious who the important characters are going to be because they're the only ones with rendered models.
Mm-hmm. And you were gonna say something, Sky?
No.
No. I am going to make you talk. You know this.
I am a man of various opinions, none of which are to the point. Well, Yang seems to be very much the overprotective type in the way she pretty much drags Ruby kicking and screaming to talk to Blake.
Yeah. That is, it actually is a little bit of an off thing for me because it's like, on the one hand, yeah, I agree, she does seem to be very protective of Ruby from some bits we've seen. Like, she's like all hugging and loving on her. It's like, oh, I'm so happy that my sister's gonna be at Beacon, and then it's like she's wanting to try to get her to introduce to Blake so Ruby can make friends because Ruby and Weiss get into this whole thing where Ruby sneezes and explodes and causes issues for Weiss.
Yeah, because she sneezed and mixed up the dust that was in the packages.
Yeah, but I find that odd though, considering literally before the scene of the whole sneezing explosion, we see Yang literally just kind of take off without her.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, for an overprotective sister, that's kind of weird for her to do, isn't it?
It does seem kind of out of character in that regard, especially since it happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was played off like a joke,
Mm-hmm.
which I think that's what it was, the intention, but it's still kind of weird considering what we've seen of Yang so far.
Yeah. You'll find that there are aspects of the characters that are played off in a certain way in the beginning that are handled much better as the series goes on.
Oh yeah, no, it's like any series you watch, with the exception of like a very, very rare few, will always have characters that change and develop and very much have aspects of their character that exist at the very beginning of the series that is nowhere to be found at the end of the series. A good example would be like Aang from Avatar. At the very beginning of the series, he's like, you want to go penguin sliding with me? And that kind of aspect is just gone by the end.
Mm-hmm.
A matter of fact...
Oh.
No, go ahead.
I would say, well, we've got plenty of show to see just how these characters grow and change.
Oh, yeah, definitely. One last thing I personally want to cover, unless you guys got something to bring up yourselves.
Go ahead.
Ozpin's speech. That was not the kind of speech I was expecting from his kind of character. It was...
I know you'd expect something a little bit more inspirational and whatnot, but I think the fact that he was just very straightforward about the fact that you're here, but that doesn't make you overly special. You need to work for it.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's bad or anything. And it's like... And I'm not even saying that I was expecting something inspirational, but it's more like the words I can understand him saying, hey, you're here. That's good. Now actually work your asses off so we can have good hunters and huntresses for the future.
Mm-hmm.
But the way he says it, his tone, his inflection, is very much of, it either feels like, I am very disappointed in you. Why aren't you better than what you are? Or it feels like, it maybe not that, but more like, it's like,
Well,
I have no respect for you until you have proven yourself to me.
He basically stated on the outset that when he looked at all of them, he basically saw wasted energy, which is a good point because these are young people who have just entered into a very prestigious institution, and they think that most of them probably think just because they managed to get in that things are going to be easy for them, and Ozpin wants to let them know, look, it's not going to be easy. And the fact that when he says wasted energy, he means stuff like what happened between Weiss and RWBY.
Yeah.
The explosion, the crater.
Yeah.
Well, not just that, the bickering and the high and mighty attitude, especially from someone like Weiss. Stupid, bitter stuff like that, when there needs to be a focus on what's important. And I think that's what he's trying to get across.
Yeah, because the whole point of their school is to basically train people to fight these monsters that we haven't, I don't think, outside of that fantasy introduction, we haven't gotten properly introduced to just yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, to have them, acting like kids, and like I said, this whole high school setting, it does not really mesh with, it very much feels like Ozpin belonged in that opening, in that special fantasy sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone around him is like in a magical girl setting, just now starting to come to the real world.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to get, if you understand what I'm trying to get across.
Well, yeah, it's basically, why did I say basically twice? I don't know why. Sorry. What he's basically trying to illustrate to them is this is not the romanticized stuff you have envisioned with being here. This is a job that you're going to be working at learning how to do properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that.
This is not all fun and games.
Yeah, so stop treating it like it and show me what you can do.
Yeah, basically.
I'm gonna have to add. So I'm gonna have to add 2 counters to
this
series.
No.
The basically counter from both you and me, and the Ash, you're breathing into your mic counter for Ash.
I came here to have a good time, and I'm feeling so attacked right now.
I'm just jostling with you, man, and I'm also trying to get you in because me and Kitty have been doing a lot of talking for both these episodes so far, and you've been just kind of tossing in little things here and there.
I don't know. I take the shows in a bit differently. Like, I did notice that Yang isn't the only one with a little bit of a mental hang-up. RWBY seems almost obsessively fixated on guns, to the point where she actually thinks it's better to be in a weapon company than a person's.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
She's a bit of a wallflower, it seems. So she's a bit what's the word? Introverted.
It looks like she's gonna be dragged out kicking and screaming though.
Mm-hmm.
The way she's acted so far, it feels very much like one of those characters who are like, I really want to get out there or show my stuff. I want to be able to be the best. And it's like, but when she actually is put out there, she gets like stage fright and turns all fluttershy. She's like,
she's an introvert who wants to be an extrovert, but when she tries to be, she kind of flops a little.
Yeah. Definitely flops just a little bit.
Whereas you have somebody like Blake who's just a straight introvert. She doesn't care.
Yeah, which compares to Weiss and Yang, who are very much extroverts, especially. Yeah. Well, I think that just about covers it for this second episode. Oh, actually, mentioning it now in case I didn't mention earlier. One thing to note for those of us who are actually watching RWBY on YouTube, because it started there and it still exists there. I'm not sure if this will actually be an effect on anyone who actually has the DVD collection, but because of the way they were animating these episodes earlier on, some of the first season's episodes were actually split into two. So I'm not sure if that's going to be mattering for people or anything, but I just want to give anyone who's actually listening to this a heads up, because saying, hey, you're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, because technically we've watched 2 episodes that we're talking about. It was a part 1 and a part 2.
Exactly. But with all that said and done, I think we're pretty much done here otherwise.
I think so, yeah.
All right. Well, then with all that said, folks, we'll go ahead and catch you next time. Until then, stay frosty.
See ya.
But I'd rather be toasty.
Good Lord.
Toasty!
Yeah, we're done. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your ever-friendly Pokeprof, and I wanted to thank you for watching yet another episode of Getting With the Program. If you got any suggestions on how to make the show better, or you're just wanting to say hi, leave a comment below. If you also like and subscribe, that will definitely help us out on the channel. Also be sure to check out Fascinating Fiction, a solo series in which I'm wanting to do a little bit more scripted content. You can also follow both me and Kitty, and I believe also Sky as well, on social media, mostly Twitter, and as well as when we stream on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays over on Twitch, where we mostly just play games that I've never played before and goof around. Hope to see you guys there, but until then, stay frosty.